Welcome to Future Focus, a financial strategies podcast where we make the complex simple. My name is Troy Branch. I'm joined here as most of the time. I think I said that last episode, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm almost positive I did. I'm joined here by my advanced planning colleagues, Keely Jo French.
Hello.
And Jacob Messick.
Troy, I know you're waiting for me to say something.
Come on.
I'm just going to say hello.
Hello, okay.
Wow, that's new.
Write that down, episode 21. Yeah. We just got a hello. All right. So we are, after coming off of our listener episode in episode 20, we're back on the 2026 train. And this is 2026 is here now. What? Estate planning edition. You know, we did a personal finance edition earlier. I think episodes, what would that be? 18 and 19.
Yeah.
We did a personal finance edition of 2026 is here now. What?
Yeah, that was a great two-parter. Hopefully, everyone has listened to that. If not, go back and listen because I know that's probably your line.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I know that's probably your line, but go back and listen because you can still use the what we talked about now. You know, even at this point in the year. So
absolutely, we're not too far along, and you should go back if you haven't listened to the personal finance edition of 2026 is here now. What? You should go ahead and do that.
How did I do with the go back and listen?
I like it.
Yeah.
Always,
now you just have to say
always
smash
be promoted.
the like button.
No, my wife told me that's dated.
Bit.
It's the like and subscribe. So
smash that like button.
No, I was told that's a little dated now. We can't say that.
Okay.
Dating is sped up in the podcast world. Everything gets old really, really quick when you say it enough. And anyway, so what's our goal here today? Our goal here today is to talk about estate planning. And some people may go, estate planning. Yep, yeah, estate planning. Because you want to know why? Because it's so important. And there are still way too many people who will think, who will actually who will take action, or in most cases not take action based on the fact that I don't need estate planning. What do I have that needs to be, that I need to write down instructions? That's simply not the case. And we want to talk about that today.
Or even with that, you said the action, inaction, or those that took action. Well, I did that 5 or 10 years ago.
Yes.
I'm good.
Right.
What could possibly go wrong in that
My
scenario?
life hasn't changed in 10 years.
Yeah, my
what
life
do you
hasn't
mean?
done anything happen in 10 years.
Yep.
So I'll just sort of recap it. So what we know now is, estate tax is $15 million, right? Like, so, and what I mean by the estate tax exemption is $15 million, which simply means that if you pass away and you have less than $15 million of assets that turns into your taxable estate, that number, you can pass that, you can pass under $15 million, $15 million or under to anyone you want, and there wouldn't be an estate tax liability. Other words, you wouldn't have to pay estate tax. Every dollar above that $15 million, assuming all things being equal and all you did was take advantage of the estate tax exemption, any dollar above $15 million is going to be taxable from an estate tax perspective.
And the federal rate's 40%. That's not a minor tax.
It doesn't start at 40%, but it gets to 40% pretty quick.
Once you hit 15 million, it's pretty much just a 40%.
When you hit 15 million or above 15 million, it's definitely 40%. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's sort of a recap. But what I want to drive home as we get into the questions that I want to ask you, that I want to sort of ask you, is that this isn't just for the ultra wealthy. This isn't just for people with more than $15 million of assets, whatever that may be, business, 401ks, retirement plans, pensions, whatever it is to make up property, to make up that number that's greater than 15 million. This is for everyone, 15 million plus, less than 15 million. So let's just make sure we level set and drive that home. There's no reason to click off and not worry about this because it doesn't pertain to me. That's simply not the case. Just give us a I mean, I kind of did a little bit, but just kind of give us a quick overview of estate planning, kind of where it's at, and just sort of the lay of the land.
Yeah, I mean, you talked a lot about the estate tax, the lifetime exemption amount. I think with having that not sunsetting, I mean, from that perspective first, having that not sunsetting and being at that level, it provides some clarity from a federal estate tax, what that amount is. And we talked about before, it's permanent until it's not permanent. And I use the air quotes because I'm going to take us off it. I got a 4-year-old at home. She learned from her aunt about air quotes. And so she's walking around air quoting everything. So seeing a little 4-year-old do air quotes, it's pretty entertaining. But, it's permanent until it's not permanent. And so there's that perspective. But, you have things like the annual gift tax exclusion amount. That still remains at $19,000 per recipient. What that means is I can gift $19,000 to somebody in 2026 without having to either pay gift tax or use my lifetime exemption amount. And me and my spouse could, we could combine that and we could give $38,000 to each recipient and do some lifetime gifting in that manner. So between the lifetime exemption, the annual gift tax exclusion amount, that typically indexed for inflation, which it grows at some cost of living type of a factor. I mean, there's those perspectives that just provide some of that clarity of, hey, what can you do from a gifting perspective? I guess that comes to mind when I'm thinking the lay of the land. That's kind of the first couple things that come to mind to me.
Now, you mentioned that it's called a lifetime exclusion. I know we didn't really talk about it as a lifetime exclusion. We talked about it as an estate tax exclusion. Let's say you give someone a gift that exceeds $19,000, or if you're married, that $38,000 that was mentioned. Does that mean there's a gift tax? Well, not necessarily. It's up to you, really, if there's a gift tax. I don't know anyone who would choose to pay the gift tax right out, but if you want to, you can pay it. Otherwise, if you don't want to, you can always elect to reduce that $15 million exemption to cover the tax.
Yeah, so when it's technically gift and estate tax exemption.
It is.
That's the actual technical term is gift. So I will probably should explain that. So it's technically the gift and estate tax exemption. The gift lifetime, the lifetime gift number and the estate tax exemption draws from that same $15 million pot. So if I decide I don't want to pay gift tax and it's above the annual exclusion number, above that 19,000 that Jacob talked about, and when I choose to reduce, I'm reducing against that same $15 million pot. That's the estate tax exemption number. Okay, so gift and estate tax, lifetime at least, they draw from the same sort of pot that is that $15 million exemption.
Yeah. So I know we're talking a lot about the federal estate tax, the lifetime exemption amount, but there's a lot more that goes into estate planning than just that. But that's typically the first thing that comes to mind when you're talking, gifting is what can I gift each year, without gift tax, with a gift and estate tax, and what's that total capacity that I might have,
right?
At least from the conversations we have.
Do you think there's a risk? And I'm saying, do you think when I know there is, and I want you to talk about it, right? Do you think there's a risk of sort of complacency with the number where it's at?
Yeah.
I talked about it sort of in the intro, but like, where do you see it?
I think to me, it's those thinking, okay, it's at this 15 million. That's where it's always going to be at, or it's going to continue to grow. We talked about this before, it could change. And then, and if it changes, what's the impact there? If it decreases, or if you have, if your assets are growing, what's the impact in that situation? So I think that complacency and not reviewing things on a regular basis to make sure you update your plan so it meets your current situation, it could just be costly in both time and dollars and not be able to accomplish what you want your wishes to be.
All right, but before we get, because I want to continue down that road, so I want to transition to the to the next part. And Killjoy, I want you to come in and when you guys go back and forth. So we know 15 million is the number. We're at transitions. World didn't end. We got all this other stuff. So what I want to know, or what I want you sort of to talk about is knowing that the number is what it is. Knowing what it is and doing something about it. Again, whether it's I'm less than 15 million, I don't have to worry about it. I'm all taken care of. Like from that perspective, but we can talk about more than 15 million. But that's generally not this. That's that's not the area. Like if you're above 15 million, you kind of know, you kind of know, or at least you should know. But when you're less than that, so take us down that road of what should people be doing? What should people be thinking about, especially the folks that are less than 15 million and think, I'm good?
So are we talking just in the tax context or just estate planning in general?
I'm thinking about estate planning in general.
Okay. Well, estate planning in general is so much more than just taxes. I think the tax is like an afterthought for most people because the exemption is so high. So what is estate planning for the average Joe? It's things you don't necessarily think about. Like, yes, it is having a will, but it's also having powers of attorney, like healthcare power of attorney, financial power of attorney. It's making sure that your wishes are known. So if you're ever in the position where you cannot make decisions for yourself,
Back up for a second.
you're taken care of.
Back up for a second. Huh?
I just see you looking at the jar. Your eyes are going Keely Joe, jar, Keely Joe, jar.
Are we
Power of
just
attorney.
ignoring it?
Well, if you let me get to it, I said it's so your wishes are
said
known.
3 different things, and the definition wasn't anywhere near you.
Table,
Powers of attorney.
table vote.
Table vote.
Okay, you're always going to outvote me. I disagree. This is not fair.
All right. Just okay. Power of attorney, yes, broad definition, but make the distinction between healthcare power of attorney, although it's healthcare power of attorney,
And a financial power of attorney.
financial attorney in fact, or whatever you want to call
And
it.
remember, not all of us are JDs at the table here.
And that's
so.
okay. So I'm sorry. I had
Just
to do
for that, I'm gonna have to make the Jacob and the JDs.
No.
Yes. Anyways, I'm sorry.
So healthcare power of attorney versus a financial power of attorney. And these aren't the only documents. There's also something called a living will, which we'll get to in a second. So a healthcare power of attorney is just literally letting people know, well, you're designating a person to make decisions for you medically if you cannot make those decisions for yourself. So that's talking to your doctor, having access to your medical records, making decisions on surgeries or things like that. But that doesn't include the pull the plug question. That in the event I'm a vegetable, I'm on a ventilator, there's no way I can ever be resuscitated. Do I want to be maintained on life support or do I want the plug pulled? That is a separate document. That is considered our living will. Together, those are called advanced healthcare directives. Your healthcare power of attorney and your living will together is an advanced healthcare directive. It is very important you have that because, again, when you're in the situation that you cannot make decisions for yourself, you want that there. Now, this is especially important for individuals who, like, for example, minors or people who aren't married. If you do not have a very healthy relationship with your parents, the last thing you want to do is be put in a situation where you cannot make your decisions and then have your parents come in that have been estranged from you, making those decisions on your behalf. Now, that same thing can be said for a financial power of attorney. A financial power of attorney, instead of healthcare decisions, is pretty much being able to do anything you can do on a financial sense, like contracting for you. I can go buy stuff. I can go sell your stuff. I can do anything you can do in a financial sense, but they are separate. They are 2 separate documents, but they are both very important to have.
So I'm just going to go ahead and say, so that was very, very good, by the way.
That's
That was awesome.
complex, simple. Well,
That was-
nice little
that
round
was
of
very good.
applause.
Thank you.
You know, if we had a bigger
But
budget,
the notion that you thought that you weren't going to put one
No,
in there,
I knew I was
it's
gonna
just,
pay.
It's just
But-
mind blowing that you thought that was like, nah, I'm going to go
think
ahead
she
and
was just-
sneak that
I
by.
think she was just waiting for you to call it out and
I'm
need
never
it in
going to
there.
self-report.
All right.
But there's so much that you need to do in your estate plan that is so much more than just taxes. Taxes are like an afterthought.
And even from a very simple route, it's titling of assets and property and its beneficiary designations. How many times do we have the conversation that maybe it's an annuity policy or a life insurance policy or whatever it may be, and the beneficiaries have not been updated to who you want it to be for your current wishes? And that's an awkward family conversation, is when if something happens and these assets are now going to someone who you don't want that to go to them at this point in time. Life changes happen and it's supposed to go to someone else.
Absolutely. Or even take it a step further. What if we don't put a beneficiary designation at all? Then what? You may think, okay, whatever, it's going to go back into my estate and then they'll just deal with it that way. Well, cool. But we might not be thinking about probate, which is just the legal process of submitting the will to the court and making sure that you get taxed on it. You both can go away. So probate takes about 9 months, though, to get all your assets together, to go through the courts. Do you really want to tie those assets up that could have gone outside of probate with a beneficiary designation?
That sounds
I don't know.
costly in both time and money.
It does.
And, you know, No, no.
throw out there too.
Go ahead.
Especially if you have a small business. If you are a business owner and you fail to put a plan in place for your succession and that business goes to probate, you cannot make any material, which are important business decisions during that 9-month period. They're frozen in place. So it's really important if you're a business owner too to have a plan in place.
Absolutely.
Plan in place from a business succession, business continuation standpoint. And I can't remember if we've talked buy-sell agreements on these episodes. We're getting to so many episodes. I can't remember what episode number we are at, but I'm sure we've talked buy-sell agreements, but buy-sell agreements from a business owner perspective, making sure, that business continuation plan is in place, whether you have business owners or that individual who's looking to take over the business. That's a key, planning document to make sure that you get reviewed on a regular basis.
Absolutely, because everything changes. Your life is not the same as it was 10 years ago. Maybe you had more children. Maybe you have a new job. Maybe you bought a new house. You need to make sure that those changes are accounted for in your estate plan. That way your estate plan can grow with you.
When you think about generationally, because again, we've talked about you're in a different spot than you are, and you guys are both in a different spot than I am. So generationally, where does this idea of estate planning come from? Especially with the backdrop of it not being about just gathering documents or just exerting control to the next generation. When I say that, how do you feel like your respective generations are viewing estate planning?
Okay, so when you think about, I guess, my generation, I am a millennial. They would say I'm a Gen Z. I am the last year of millennials. But regardless, my generation, when it comes to estate planning, it is not a thought at all. Because they're like, I am young. Why does this impact me? Maybe they don't have children. Maybe they do have children, but they're young. Maybe they have assets, but not that many. They just don't think about it.
You used a lot of the words that I was going to use. You mentioned older, and to me, it's not just parents, but aunts and uncles, but it's just the generation before me. They're getting older. Sorry, Pop and Grandma, if you're listening to this. Not calling you old, just saying you're getting older. But my kids are getting older, so how do you? It's to me, it's about the communication. It's about those family meetings, knowing what do you want your wishes to be? What are you trying to accomplish? And make sure that's being met both while you're living and then, at your passing, at your death, and to me, it's having the younger generation part of those conversations so that they can see, that impact of whether it's giving back or it's aligning kind of what you're wanting to accomplish. And to me, the one thing that comes to mind is, charitable giving strategies. What are you wanting to accomplish, and getting all generations involved with some level of charitable planning, charitable giving, that can help make a difference.
And I think I just thought of a great example of also why it's important to have these conversations. My grandfather just passed away. My grandfather was a collector of anything Native American. His house was a museum. It was insane. But at one day he talked to my mother. He knew he was going to die soon. And my mom goes to him and says, "Hey, Dad, I don't know what to do with this stuff. I don't know what it's worth. You need to help me sell it, or at least help me figure out what to do with it, because if you leave it to me, I am going to sell it on eBay and not get a quarter of what it's worth. Is that what you want me to do?" So talking to your parents, if they have a collection like that so that they can get the best price for you, is something that you can set your children up for success. It's just something you can do. It's an important conversation to have. And I think that really helped my mom in the transition when my grandfather did pass away, because she was able to know, okay, this is where I need to sell this. This is how much I get this for. They had that conversation. And so his estate was a lot easier to wrap up.
And I think part of it is, a lot of things we do, it's answering a question with more questions, but it helps provide that clarity on the why. What's the purpose? What are you trying to accomplish, and why? And it's just having that level of communication. And like you said, it's not just knowing, hey, here's the documents, here's where the papers are at, and then go figure it out. But it's knowing, what are we trying to accomplish?
And I will say that is, again, because we've talked about me, needing context. It's my number one gallop strengths for those of you out there who do gallop strengths.
Which is why you may hear us mention context from time to time.
Because it's not a lot of context people running around, believe it or not.
Maybe there are. Maybe there'll be some
but
context
maybe-
people in
if
the
you're-
chat.
If you're context, be sure to comment in the chat. I would love that. So I need to know there's more of us out there.
He needs to know he's not alone.
I see. Although number one for me is achievers. So if there's some achievers out there, achievers,
Achiever is
We got one here.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. All right.
So
there we go.
but the thing that with both situations, again, and it's at least this is my opinion. It's not so much as your mom sitting down with your grandfather and talking through, what to do with at least I believe it's, talking to do with the Native American, memorabilia. To me, the valuable part is the conversation itself. It's almost like the journey, the journey is more important than the destination. It's that time sitting down and understanding why this is important, what was important, why is this worth more than this, and the stories and the stuff behind the stuff that you're trying to figure out, right? Like that's what I've come to realize, and I'm sort of hanging my hat on. That those journeys are becoming more and more, especially as I think about it. And maybe I'm ahead, maybe I'm a little ahead because of the industry that I'm in. But I would encourage people to think a little bit more about the journey and sitting down and talking to kids, grandkids, spouses, whoever it is, to sort of start that journey of why was this important? Why is it important for you for us to do this? Why is it important for our family to end up, this charity or doing this thing, or why were these values so important to you?
Yeah. So it's what I wrote down. I mean, you just pretty much said exactly what I wrote down here. Aligning your plans with your values and goals.
So we got another. Well, it depends on how long, but it's never just a couple minutes with us. But
He's saying you talk too much.
no,
Jacob.
I said with us. I
took that as a Jacob
squarely
talks
put
too much.
myself.
I got a few more stories. I felt like I did good last episode, not sharing any extra stories off the roadmap. I could share a few, but we probably don't have time.
Yeah, let's not.
So
yeah, we're getting a hook.
stories will be for next time. All right.
So if you had a call to action, right? If you had a call to action to tell everyone out there, what should they be thinking about as 2026 is here? What now? Estate planning. What's your call to action? Given everything we just talked about, kind of touchy feely stuff and kind of cold document stuff. Let's combine that. And what does that call to action look like?
You go first or me go first?
I'll do the cold stuff.
All right, you go first. I feel like I'm on Family Feud. I got 5 things listed here. Let's see how many get put on the board on Future Focus.
Okay.
So, on Family Feud.
I'm going to be the cold person that talks about the documentation. If you are above the age of 18.
So I guess you aren't going first.
Oh, did you say
No,
first?
you go first.
Okay.
No, you go first. I'm gonna check things off the list
Okay,
and
go
see
ahead.
how many are all are match up.
I misunderstood. My bad.
That's okay. So if you are above the age of 18, you own assets of any kind, or you have children, you need to have an estate plan. And specifically, you need to have the following documents. And again, this isn't legal advice, so go talk to your attorney, but this is what I would do. So I would have a will, a power of attorney that's financial, a healthcare power of attorney, and that living will that we talked about.
Documents check.
Those are the documents. Those are the things. I would have conversations with individuals, making sure that they know what my estate plan is, making sure my executor has a copy of everything. Your executor is the person that administers your estate.
Good catch.
Thank you. Making sure my power of attorneys have copies of everything and they understand their responsibilities. They know what they're supposed to do and they know what your wishes are. And then the next thing I would do
Conversations check.
would check your beneficiary designations. Make sure you have them. If you don't have them, make sure your will at least tells them what you want to do. And make sure you understand that if you don't have a beneficiary designation, it will go through probate, which means your beneficiaries may not get that asset for at least a minimum of 9 months.
If you don't have a beneficiary designation, you have a beneficiary designation.
It's
Somebody
your estate.
called the state is going to decide who gets what.
And Uncle Sam is going to make a guess on what they think you might want if you don't have anything at all.
Right.
Beneficiary, check.
Okay, what I miss?
So
'Cause that's just the cold side,
yeah,
not
no.
the...
That's three of five. That's pretty good overlap. And I'm sure you probably had these other two. So no, the two other things that come to mind is as you are, title, checking asset titles and beneficiary debt. To me, the two other things that come to mind is, liquidity. And I'm thinking from both the estate planning, but the business planning side of thing is, I mean, I know we talk about life insurance, but just how life insurance in general can help a business owner or a family provide some liquidity that's needed at passing. Maybe it's to cover estate tax or final expense or other debt and expenses, or for a business that, the life insurance can help provide the liquidity to keep that business up and running, or give that additional business owner the funds to complete the buy-sell agreement for that business continuation. So to me, a feature is life insurance that provides liquidity to help accomplish some of these goals and these planning concerns. But then,
Can I add to that?
yeah,
And you might be thinking, I don't care about liquidity because I don't have a business and I have an estate under 15 million. One thing we didn't talk about is there are estate taxes in certain states.
usually those taxes are due within 9 months of the date of death. So it's, there's a lot of reasons to have liquidity. So you're not having to sell your business pennies on the dollar, or deplete these funds, or sell these
Sell
assets.
the house, sell the assets.
Kind of move funds from an investment when maybe the markets are down, and selling things out. All those reasons why liquidity can provide value, and that's one thing life insurance can help with from both personal and business planning. But the last thing I had is just scheduling a plan review with a financial professional. Okay, you have the documents. We've talked about this at the beginning of the episode. You have the documents. You title the assets. You have the beneficiary designations. You've done all this, but time passes. Just because you did it 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, things are not the same as what it was at that time period. You want to make sure things are up to date. So meeting with the right financial professional, whether it's an attorney or your accountants or your advisors, whoever it may be, making sure that everything that you've put in place doesn't need to get updated. Maybe it needs to be added to. You mentioned that it's a living plan. It's living and growing. I mean, most estate plans don't decrease in size over time. They're expanding, especially when you're thinking of the older generation of parents and the younger generation of kids. It's growing. So it's having those review sessions to make sure your wishes are still being met.
And you may ask the question, okay, how often should I be reviewing my estate plan? Well, I wouldn't really set a specific time. I would say anytime you have a major change in your life. You have a kid, you buy a house, your kid turns 18, you get a divorce, you get married, etc. Anytime you have a big life event, you need to be looking at your estate plan.
I feel like Troy wants to disagree.
You gotta look.
Disagree?
No, I don't disagree.
You should still have, like, if you're not going to look at your plan for 10 years, of course you should go back and look at your plan.
I think you run into danger, in my opinion,
waiting for a life change.
for our life event.
It doesn't have to be a massive life event like somebody dies.
I still think
you get married, you have
I'm just
kids.
telling you that if you my experience is that if you give people, hey, it's a major life event. So if the major life event doesn't happen, then they
You still need to do
and
it.
it's set it and forget
me
it.
put
See, I could get in the middle, be in the middle of you two. Let's come to a compromise. Maybe it's the combination
I think
of
it's 3 to 5 years, if not a major
I would
life
agree
event.
to that.
or an annual review process that adds in when life events occur. A little bit of both.
Annual might be a little too much.
It depends on your situation.
Lawyers are expensive.
So
Well, you don't necessarily. Well, you can.
doesn't mean it has to be updated, but being looked at. So
That's fair.
We should at least someone
People don't usually read
somewhere
this stuff.
somehow you need to be asking the question.
Have my
Do
wishes
I
changed?
need to do something different?
it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to. But it's looking at it. Even just have that checklist, that checkpoint to say, yep. It's like taking the car into the mechanic. Sometimes things need to get updated. Sometimes you need new tires. Sometimes you don't. But getting it looked at and reviewed knows where you're at.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Just don't end up like my grandmother, who just gave me her will, her trust for her minor son, who is now 50. She's divorced. Her other daughter has been aged out, which another trust would have been there for. Just make sure you have an updated plan. Because
That's what I'm saying. You've got to. I think if but for major, I think if nothing else, I think you've got to plan on looking at it.
On a regular basis,
Right.
whatever that frequency may be.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. So that's I think that's episode 21. Yeah, 21. Again, I want to thank everyone for your time and attention. As always, like and subscribe below. You can always add your comments. And we always do not always, but we're doing a listener episode every 5 episodes on the, on the 5s, if you will. So 20 or 15, 20. Next one will be 25. But we can't do that without your questions. So go ahead and put those, put your questions below. Your questions help drive not only the listener episode, but the content that we at Future Focus bring to you. So thank you everyone for your time and attention. This is Future Focus. Have a great day.